entities of the Appalachian Mountains. The clock strikes closer to 12 a.m., leaving me frantically running around my small home, rushing to perform my nightly rituals. Ensuring the front and back doors are locked, and the latches are put in place. Every window is sealed and the locks pushed all the way towards the right, as tightly as possible. The windows are covered, as to prevent myself from being vulnerable to all that lurks in the night. I rush up the stairs of my small, two-story home, which rests on the border of the forest composing of the Appalachian Mountains. Alone, night after night, since my husband died in a biking accident just mere miles from where I sleep, I'm compelled to follow his voice once it reveals itself, always at the tick of 12 a.m. He calls for me through my windows, through the back and front doors, and from the edge of the woods from which he took his last breath in over a month ago. The locals claim it was not an accident which caused his death, but rather the entities testing their limits as they become stronger with each full moon. Born and raised amongst these mountains, I know better than anyone the dangers of awaking the creatures that roam in the night. But perhaps my foreign husband was never the cautious and careful man I believed him to be. Perhaps he took my warnings for granted. My tales of the Wendigo which roams the edge of the forest night after night, looking for a prey that dares to step out of their home base at all the wrong hours. Tales of the eyes which watch day and night, reporting back to that which controls them as a honeybee does its queen. The tales which are not mere tales, but rather a account of the dogmen who heard the innocent bystander who forgot the don't hear, don't see, don't speak rule that strikes once the sun releases its protective grasp over the range after 7 p.m. My husband, an innocent yet naive man, must have woken that which I speak of, and now his soul is entwined with the woods which devoured his body and yearned for another victim. I'm not ignorant to his screams for me, for I know they are the entity which mimics his voice, trying to encourage me to follow and become that which has befallen my husband. The nightly rituals are a must, but I find myself struggling to pick up the load that my husband once carried. As I lay in my bed, I recount all I've done to ensure every task was taken care of. The front and back doors are locked? Check. The windows are latched and covered? Check. The salt is poured around the borders of my home? Check. The tick-tock, tick-tock. The clock strikes 12 a.m. My heart skips a beat as I wait for the moans of my husband to arise outside. Though the sounds threaten to rip my eardrums and possess a chokehold over me which only can be released by following his voice, as long as he cannot enter this house, I'm safe. I digress, finishing my mental to-do list. The basement cellar is latched, and the chimney. Oh, the chimney. Immediately shaking, I throw the covers off of me and sprint to my chimney. Oh, please God, don't let him notice. All I have to do is pull the handle to close the vent. Sprinting down my flight of stairs, I'm almost there. And snap. My ankle twists, and I fall down the stairs, howling in pain. Sweat beads around my hairline as I dare look down at my ankle. Slowly drawing my gaze to the immense pain I feel, and the warmth that pulls around my leg, I look down to see my ankle bone protruding from my skin, breaking slowly as the flesh peels from my body, releasing a howl from pain, loud enough for every creature to hear. As I bite down on my tongue and taste the blood pool, redirecting my attention, I hear the thuds of footsteps on my roof. Oh God, please don't be him. Save me, oh please, save me. Attempting to grasp the railing and pull myself up, I immediately fall, recognizing my fate. Nails creating a high-pitched screeching sound as the body of my husband falls through the chimney, seeking my screams. I pull myself to the edge of my hallway to have a clear view of the chimney, and as I feel my body weakening from the loss of blood, I see the decayed and blackened hands of my husband's corpse reach out from the bottom of the chimney. He is coming. No, not he. For the corpse of my husband is not my husband, but the entity of something much more wicked inhabiting his empty flesh shell. I release another scream, hoping anything might hear me and magically save me, but I know this is my time. As my heart quickens, forcing the blood to pour faster, the corpse pulls itself from the chimney. As my vision begins to go, all I'm left to see is the mauled corpse that reveals no pure accident that killed my husband. Perhaps my death will be ruled an accident as well. Silverwood Lake. This is a story of a few strange phenomenons from what happened years ago back at Silverwood Lake. For a little context, me and my family, featuring my grandparents, aunts, uncles and cousins, love to go camping every year and spend an average of 4 days there. First setting up camp, second and third for regular camping days, and the final day being packing day. There are a lot of mountains where I live, so my family and I would alternate between mountains to camp at. There's this one place called Silverwood Lake. We've gone there a few times and it's nice. There's not a lot of thick forest area, and not a lot of wildlife either, so it's very quiet and peaceful there. One of the activities my family and I do in the 2 days we get free time is to go hiking the trails, and we usually spend a couple of hours hiking the mountains, and it's kind of a routine. There's a good amount of trails in the mountain, not a lot to where you get lost, but not too little to where it'd be boring. At one of these hiking sessions, we went out a little later than usual, and so we all decided to bring some flashlights and headlamps, just in case it went dark while we were hiking. While we were walking on a trail we've taken many times, it was a new path that we'd never seen before. It was very wide enough to fit me and my family of 12 other people to stand side by side with some distance between our shoulders, and it had thick forest area on the sides of the path, which is an unusual sight since the forest at that mountain is pretty thin. Since we've never seen it before, everyone wanted to go explore the new path, and so we did. We walked for around 40 minutes down that path, and I was at the side next to the thick forest, until nightfall came. We still wanted to go down that path, so we all turned on the light sources that were with us, being the flashlights and headlamps. After maybe 3 or 4 minutes walking, all of our lights just went out at the same time, and it was complete darkness. And so we started talking like, what happened? While everyone was talking, I heard rustling in the dense forest to the right of me, and after that all the lights came back on. My family, especially my grandma, are superstitious, and after the lights turning off and back on again, decided it would be best to just go the other way. We ran maybe half of the way back to the campsite, and when we thought it was safe, we started walking again. We later finally arrived at the campsite. We lit the fire, made some food, and unwinded a bit. We never really said anything about the weird thing that happened with our lights at the trail. We kind of just left that behind, and eventually it was that time when everyone went to sleep. We all went in our tents and shut our eyes. Except me. For some reason, I couldn't sleep. After hearing the rustling in the forest area kind of startled me, because there's not a lot of wildlife, and the wildlife that is there aren't big enough to make the sounds that I heard. The tent that I was staying in had some fine mesh windows that are covered by, well, covers. There's a little gap that you can see through without taking the whole thing off. So I was just laying there, eyes wide open, aware of every sound outside the tent. Sounds of crickets and bugs, sometimes the occasional sounds of coyotes howling at each other. It was like this until all of a sudden it was dead silent. All the life that the night seemed to have just vanished. And after what seemed like forever in the quietness, I heard footsteps. To ease myself, I just thought that someone had come to take a nightly piss, but I knew that that wasn't what was happening. The footsteps of whatever was outside kept circling the campsite for what seemed like an hour. I was petrified. I couldn't move a muscle, although eventually I gained the courage to see through the small gap of the window. What I saw was only the silhouette of the thing that was roaming around. It was a tall figure, with bent knees after looking at it for a couple of seconds, and it stopped in its path. When it stopped, I froze. I thought that it saw me, and I think it did, but after a couple of minutes of it stopping, it walked away. Even though it was walking away, I could still feel the gaze of the creature as it left. When it did leave, all of the night sounds came back, and I just felt mentally exhausted, so I went to sleep. When I woke up, it was normal. Everyone was there and just talking, and it made me comfortable. We did our usual thing of talking, making food, and existing. Later on, we went to go hike again as we wanted to continue exploring that path we were at yesterday, and so we started walking. When we got to the spot, the path was gone. There was nothing left. All that was left was just fully grown trees on where it was, and everyone was so confused. We went back to the camp and stayed there. None of us really wanted to leave the comfort of the camp. The next day we packed up and left, and never talked about it ever again. A couple of years later we went to the same place. It was a normal trip except for one thing. We saw on a neighbouring mountain a small white house. My cousin had some binoculars, so we looked at the house. It was run down, very bad condition. Obviously the house gave off some bad vibes and we just ignored it. We came back home and a year later we went back to that place. When we tried looking for the house again, it was nowhere to be found. We looked at the same spot only to see fully grown trees. Me and my family haven't gone camping in a long time, maybe 3 years or so, but we do plan on going back to Silverwood Lake when we do go camping. I'm kinda nervous just thinking about going back to that place, but I hope that that was just a one-time occurrence. The cabin in Whispering Woods. Preserved within these ancient woods, I stand as a relic of a sinister past, now lost to the encroaching wilderness. Once, I was the sanctuary of a monster, a serial killer whose wicked deeds forever scarred these woods. I bore witness to unspeakable horrors that stained my very being. Within my walls, the echoes of torment and suffering still reverberate, trapped in an eternal cycle of despair. Nature's tendrils have claimed my warm frame, their gnarled fingers tightly embracing me as a captive of time. Deep lines etched upon my weathered facade tell the story of countless seasons. Ivy and moss weave a tapestry along my decaying exterior, as if nature herself mourns the darkness that dwelled within. The woods, once accomplices in a reign of terror, have turned against me. The towering trees cast their twisted shadows upon me, as if joining in the condemnation of my dark history. Skeletal branches point accusing fingers, their whispers echoing the sins I've harboured. Through the night, the wind howls, carrying with it the anguished cries of forgotten victims. A mournful symphony that echoes through the woods. Their restless spirits haunt these unhallowed walls, forever trapped in the purgatory of their suffering. The air within these worn walls hangs heavy with the lingering stench of decay, a constant reminder of the evil deeds that transpired. My windows, once clear portals to the outside world, now obscured by the grime of time's passage, they hide the horrors they have witnessed. My doors' creaking hinges reveal chambers of despair, a chilling narrative of pain and devastation. Each room holding the secret of his macabre rituals, walls etched by cryptic symbols and grotesque artwork. Dark stains mar the floors, remnants of his unspeakable acts that unfolded within my confinements. I am cursed, bound to bear witness to the terrors inflicted upon the innocent. An ominous presence still lingers within me. Footsteps echo through my hollow halls, a haunting reminder of the relentless pursuit of wickedness that transpired within. The woods themselves whisper tales of dread and tragedy, their ancient secrets intertwined with my dark past. Nature recoils from the darkness that once dwelled within my walls, as if shunning the malevolence that tainted our peaceful embrace. Nightfall becomes a canvas for apparitions, the spirits of the killer's victims forever trapped in spectral purgatory. They silently beseech any wanderer to flee, to escape the clutches of the darkness that still lingers. Beware, weary traveller, I implore you, heed my urgent plea and retreat. Unleash not the horrors that lurk within, for I am forever tainted by unspeakable sins. These woods conceal grim secrets, entwined in their sinister history. Flee into the comforting embrace of light. My haunted chambers hold naught but relentless darkness and the malevolent legacy of a serial killer's reign. Let instinct guide your steps to safety, lest you be ensnared by the maleficent spectres that haunt this place.